Hello, my name is Ben Stock and I'm normally found at Christmas playing an ugly sister somewhere in the country for Kudos. I'm thrilled to be able to be doing this little video for you. So I will get crack straight on. 5 questions. The first one is my first experience of Panto. It actually wasn't a tradition in our family to go to the pantomime every year. I grew up in Bristol, but I do remember going to see 2 local companies do pantomimes. The Warmly Players, and they usually did less traditional stories like The Old Woman That Lived in the Shoe and Robinson Crusoe and those sorts of stories. And then there was a big chocolate factory, Fry's Chocolate Factory in Bristol, and the social club there always did a brilliant pantomime. So I remember going to see those with cubs and not brownies, but all that sort of stuff, Sunday school. And the 2 professional pantomimes I remember seeing are Aladdin at the Bristol Hippodrome, which starred Gary Wilmot, Alan Stewart, and the Roly-Polies, who I loved. And I actually went to see the last one they did at the Palladium before the long break. Babes in the Wood with Cannonball, Barbara Windsor, John Inman, Rod Hull and Emu, Marty Webb, Cheryl Baker, Peter Howitt, Derek Griffiths, Nicholas Smith. And I remember just being completely blown away by that. I thought it was the most magical thing in the world. The second question, who living or dead would I like to do pantomime with? Can you see this bug crawling up the window behind me? Hilarious. That's a really hard one. So some of the people I have actually done pantomime with would be on that list. So Leslie Joseph, Brian Connolly, Billy Pearce, the Crankies, real panto legends. Living or still working and doing pantomime, I'd love to do pantomime with Sue Pollard. That would be an absolute dream come true. I love her as a person. I just think she's fabulous in pantomime. And anybody from those sort of David Croft sitcoms, really, Jeffrey Holland, Arthur Bostrom, lovely Vicky Michelle, any of those people, Ruth Maddock, I would love to do panto with those. But that's more about talking to them about those shows because I'm such a huge fan. And I guess dead, then I'd be looking at people, those real, like Molly Sugden, Terry Scott, June Whitfield, those real sort of Jack Tripp. But if I had to choose one person, living or dead, it would have to be John Inman. I wish I had known him. From everything everyone says about him, he sounds wonderful. And I would really love to have done a pantomime with John Inman. Third one, role I'd like to play, very easy, Wicked Queen. Doing Ugly Sister is only another step, I think. I love being evil at Christmas. I'm quite nice the rest of the year. So Caraboss in Sleeping Beauty or Wicked Queen in Snow White, those would be my choices. At a push, if I had to wear flat shoes, Captain Hook. My favourite theatre, that's quite hard. I think it depends, really. I mean, doing pantomime, I actually love doing it in the modern theatres because they've got wider aisles and wider corridors backstage and dressing rooms that are just more practical. So I have to say I quite like doing them at High Wycombe and Woking and that sort of theatre. But my 3 favourite theatres, if I had to really trim down, are the Bristol Hippodrome because it has so many memories of for me when I was growing up. I'm actually old enough they still had gas lighting in the auditorium, so that smell of gas always reminds me of going to the Hippodrome. Wolverhampton Grand was my first big panto with the Crankies, and so I love that theatre. When you're on stage, you just feel like you're being given a little cuddle. So Wolverhampton Grand is another one. And the other Grand that I adore, I've only worked there once, and I would love to do pantomime there, is the Blackpool Grand. I love Blackpool, and it's such a beautiful theatre, so Blackpool Grand would be on that list. And last but not least, has Panto changed, or is it ever changing? Yes, it has changed, and that's a good thing. I think it should always evolve. Perhaps when I was younger, there was the Gladiators thing and the sports stars, people like Ian Botham and Frank Bruno doing pantomime. And it just keeps evolving, and that can only be good. It means it's still alive and worth evolving. And I love the fact that there are different traditions in different towns. I remember going to the City Varieties in Leeds, where they always had like a rock throwing thing. Doesn't happen anywhere else, I don't think. But those local traditions are so amazing. I love going to see the really big pantomimes with the magical flying coach that comes out over the auditorium, or the beanstalk that goes up to the roof, and all of that. I also love seeing a local pantomime which is very traditional, very simple, relies on all the old routines. So I think it does keep changing, but that can only be a good thing. My absolute favourite thing in the whole of pantomime ever is the ghost gag, because I think it's something really magical about 500 kids screaming at a dancer in a sheet, which is essentially what it is. And kids today, their toys talk at them and do things, and they're so clever, and you can play games with people on the other side of the world. But you put them in that situation where there's a dancer running behind three adults in a sheet, and they lose their mind. So I think as much as it keeps evolving, those things will always be there, and that's a great thing. Thank you, Pantomime Archive, for asking me to do this. It's been an absolute pleasure. And although this year may be slightly different for pantomimes, I think next year we'll be back bigger and better than ever before. So keep safe, everyone, and thanks for having me.